Victor Wembanyama. Victor Wembanyama arrived in the NBA carrying expectations no teenager had faced since LeBron, and somehow he still made those predictions look small. He dominated Europe with size, skill, and instincts that felt completely unreal. And the moment he stepped onto an NBA court, the league immediately shifted around him. His rookie season was stuffed with records, rare stat lines, and defensive plays that looked like glitches in reality. He blocked jump shots, hit step-back threes, and controlled games without needing the ball. Analysts warned fans that he would need years to grow into his body, but he produced like a top-tier star from day one and kept raising his ceiling. Even a health scare in year two barely slowed him down, and it made his return even more dramatic. He was bigger, sharper, and even more terrifying. And what happened next would make the comparisons get louder, but that's not all because his impact was still expanding. Luka Dončić. Luka Dončić entered the league with a resume built before most players graduate high school, and every year since then, he has added something even more unbelievable. He dominated Europe as a teenager, then walked into the NBA acting like it was just another league to conquer. His scoring, passing, and control over tempo made veterans uncomfortable, and the numbers he put up through his first few seasons were ahead of LeBron's pace in several categories. Then came the shocker. A blockbuster trade sent him to Los Angeles, where he became the new face of the franchise the moment he stepped off the plane. Instead of shrinking under the pressure, he thrived. He produced near triple-double averages, hit impossible shots, and carried the Lakers through stretches where the roster fell apart. Fans started wondering just how far he could push his ceiling and what part of his journey was coming next, but it gets crazier. Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards came into the league with swagger, humor, and explosive athleticism, but he quickly proved he was far more than entertainment. He became a top scorer almost immediately, and each season added a layer of polish that pushed him closer to superstardom. His mix of confidence and production looked like the early DNA of every all-time great, and people started asking if Minnesota finally had a franchise legend in the making. Then he started stacking milestones that only icons like LeBron, Jordan, and Oscar Robertson had reached at his age. His playoff runs amplified everything. He hit big shots, dropped 40-point games, and treated pressure like it was fuel. Fans loved him, teammates trusted him, and opponents hated matching up with him. Paolo Banchero. Paolo Banchero entered the NBA looking unusually polished for a young forward, and his early impact made Orlando immediately shift its entire future around him. He scored with strength and fluidity, created mismatches, and looked comfortable attacking veteran defenders like he had been doing it for years. His rookie season set the tone. His second season confirmed it. And by the time he hit his third year, he started delivering the kind of high-scoring nights that turn young players into franchise cornerstones. Even injuries couldn't slow him for long. He came back sharper, stronger, and more confident. Orlando rewarded him with a massive contract, and his postseason flashes suggested he was only getting started. His combination of size, poise, and playoff scoring turned him into one of the most intriguing young stars in the East, and what happens soon will shock fans. Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham carried enormous expectations from the moment he entered the league. But the impressive part is how he kept meeting them. Even after major setbacks, Detroit believed they were drafting a franchise changer, and his early flashes looked exactly like that. He controlled games with maturity, hit clutch shots, and carried an offense that struggled to give him consistent help. Then a stress fracture shut him down for an entire season, and many players would have faded after that kind of setback. Instead, Cade returned with more command, more scoring, and more confidence. He earned a massive extension, pushed Detroit back toward relevance, and delivered the kind of playoff debut that suggested he was rewriting his narrative in real time. He played with force, handled pressure, and looked like a leader who was finally ready for a bigger stage. Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg generated massive hype before he even chose a college. And once he landed at Duke, he validated every ounce of attention placed on it. His defensive instincts, scoring ability, and overall feel for the game made him look like a player built in a laboratory for modern basketball. He broke records, dominated tournament games, and handled pressure with a level of calm that impressed coaches and analysts across the country. By the time the draft arrived, he was positioned as the top pick without debate. Dallas took him first, and he immediately showed why. Even after a shaky summer debut, he bounced back with a 31-point outburst that made the league take notice. Veterans praised his poise, stars complimented his awareness, and scouts kept pointing to how young he was compared to how complete his game looked. Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson looked like a superhero built for basketball from the moment he stepped onto the national stage. His dunks went viral. His strength overwhelmed defenders, and his flashes at Duke made people believe he was a once-in-a-generation force. New Orleans took him first overall, and his rookie stretch delivered historic efficiency and dominant scoring nights. The problem was never his ability. It was staying on the court. Every time he gained momentum, another injury halted everything. Foot issues, hamstring problems, and sudden setbacks created a career filled with abrupt cliffhangers. Yet every time he returned, he played like a franchise star again, scoring with ease and shooting percentages that made no sense for someone his size. Fans kept wondering how high his ceiling really was if he ever stayed healthy. Morant. Ja Morant rose from an overlooked recruit to one of the most electrifying players in the league, and his early Memphis years turned him into a superstar almost instantly. His explosive dunks, fearless drives, and highlight finishes made him a viral sensation, but his playmaking and fourth-quarter scoring proved he was far from a novelty act. He won Rookie of the Year, pushed the Grizzlies into the playoff picture, and carried himself like the face of the franchise. Then the turbulence hit, injuries piled up, missed games hurt his momentum, and league discipline became a repeating storyline. Fans didn't know what version of Ja would show up next, yet his talent never disappeared. When he played, Memphis looked dangerous, fast, and unpredictable. His numbers stayed impressive, his energy remained infectious, and his flashes reminded everyone why comparisons once circled his name. And after everything that happened, a new development changed the conversation. But first, only cool people are subscribed to this channel, so hit that subscribe button before we go any further. RJ Barrett developed hype long before he reached the NBA, and by the time he entered the league, he carried expectations that most prospects never experience. His high school dominance, record-setting run at Duke, and top 3 draft selection made him instantly recognizable. But his early Knicks years were filled with inconsistency that kept fans guessing. Some nights he looked like a future all-star, attacking the rim with force and creating offense with confidence. Other nights he faded into the background. After his trade to Toronto, something shifted. His scoring jumped, his efficiency improved, and he delivered the kind of aggressive performances that reminded people why he was once compared to early era stars. Toronto unlocked a version of him that fans had been waiting for, and he kept adding pieces to his game until he looked like a complete wing. Andrew Wiggins grew up surrounded by hype so massive that people crowned him the next big thing before he even reached college. But his NBA journey has taken turns that no one predicted. His early years in Minnesota showed promise, yet he never quite hit the superstar tier fans projected. Then Golden State reshaped him. He transformed into a defensive weapon, played a key role in their 2022 championship run, and delivered some of the biggest moments of the finals. The narrative shifted again when he landed in Miami, where he became a steady scorer and clutch performer during a turbulent season. He dropped over 40 points to break a losing streak, stabilized a chaotic offense, and earned the trust of a fan base hungry for consistency. Ben Simmons entered the league with superstar expectations, and for a moment, it looked like he might reach them. He had size, speed, defensive instincts, and passing vision that made people believe he was the prototype for the next generation of point forwards. His early years in Philadelphia delivered all-star selections, all-defense honors, and stat lines that fueled comparisons to LeBron. But everything shifted after the 2021 postseason, when confidence issues, back problems, and a series of setbacks derailed his momentum. He missed large stretches of multiple seasons and struggled to regain the explosiveness he once relied on. A short stint with the Clippers gave glimpses of his old versatility, but entering the 2025 to 2026 season, he remained unsigned, an unthinkable scenario for a former #1 pick. His story has transformed from stardom to survival. Marvin Bagley III entered the league with a polished offensive game and the kind of athleticism that made him a top prospect. Sacramento believed he could become a franchise cornerstone, and his early flashes hinted at that potential. But recurring injuries disrupted his rhythm, and inconsistency overshadowed the moments when he looked dominant. After stints in Sacramento and Detroit, he landed with Washington in 2025 on a prove-it deal, hoping to rebuild his value. His efficiency improved, and he showed he could still finish around the rim and rebound at a high level, but the production remained uneven. The conversation around Bagley shifted from stardom to whether he could become a reliable contributor in a consistent role. His career now represents both talent and turbulence. Markelle Fultz arrived in the NBA as the #1 pick with an advanced scoring package, smooth playmaking, and the kind of upside that made comparisons to established stars feel reasonable. But the mysterious shoulder issue that altered his shooting form shifted everything. His early seasons were defined by rehab, resets, and trying to reclaim what once felt natural. Orlando gave him stability, and he had stretches where he looked confident again, attacking the rim, defending on the perimeter, and creating for teammates with patience. In 2025, he was picked up by Sacramento as a depth guard, a far cry from the spotlight he entered with. His minutes were limited, but he continued showing glimpses of the player scouts once believed could anchor a franchise. Fultz's story has become one of resilience rather than superstardom. He is still fighting to carve out a meaningful role. Bronny James entered the basketball world carrying a level of attention almost no young player has ever faced, and none of it was because of anything he asked for. Being LeBron's son guaranteed cameras, comparisons, and constant scrutiny. Yet he built his own identity through high school success, earning McDonald's All-American honors and showing real defensive instincts and playmaking balance. His freshman season at USC was quiet statistically, especially after returning from a cardiac arrest that nearly ended his career before it started. He declared for the draft anyway and was selected by the Lakers, forming the first father-son duo in NBA history. His rookie NBA minutes were limited, but he made noise in the G League with strong scoring bursts and improved shooting. Bronny isn't chasing the next LeBron label. He's carving a slower, more methodical path. His future depends on development, confidence, and proving he belongs through consistency rather than hype. Greg Oden's story remains one of the most heartbreaking what-if tales in modern basketball. Coming out of high school, he looked like a generational center with elite size, strength, and defensive instincts. At Ohio State, he dominated immediately, leading the team to the national title game and solidifying himself as the number one pick. Portland drafted him to be their franchise anchor, but injuries took control almost instantly. Microfracture surgery stole his rookie season, and every comeback attempt felt like it was cut short before it truly began. In the rare moments he stayed on the court, he flashed the potential that once made him the most coveted prospect in the country. After multiple setbacks, he transitioned overseas before retiring in 2016. Oden later rebuilt his life through coaching and education, proving resilience beyond basketball. His career never reached the heights expected, but his story still resonates as a reminder of how fragile potential can be. Shabazz Muhammad entered the basketball spotlight with more hype than most teenagers ever experience. In high school, he collected major awards, dominated competition, and rose to the number one ranking in the country. UCLA elevated the buzz even further as he averaged high scoring numbers and showed the polished offensive skill set that made him a projected star. Minnesota drafted him in 2013, and early on, he delivered strong scoring nights and energetic play, but inconsistency, defensive concerns, and shifting roles caused his NBA opportunities to fade. After a brief stop in Milwaukee, his career shifted overseas, where he reinvented himself as a high-level scorer across China, the Philippines, Lebanon, Indonesia, and Europe. By 2025, he had crafted a long, successful international career, even without achieving NBA stardom. Shabazz's journey became less about chasing the next LeBron comparisons and more about proving he could thrive as a professional, regardless of the league or location. Emoni Bates was once labeled the best high school prospect since LeBron, a title that created pressure no teenager should face. He dominated AAU circuits, won national awards early, and stood out with his length, fluid scoring, and shot-making ability. But college revealed the complexities behind the hype. He struggled at Memphis, battled injuries, and faced a difficult position fit. Transferring to Eastern Michigan revived him as he delivered big scoring nights and reminded people why he was once projected as a generational talent. Cleveland drafted him in the second round, and he split time between the NBA and G League, flashing elite shooting and developmental minutes. He delivered a 25-point NBA performance in 2025 and continues working to stabilize his role. His path is no longer about replacing legends. It is about finding his lane, developing physically, and proving that the immense talent he showed as a teen can translate consistently. Darius Miles was one of the highest profile high school phenoms of his era, entering the NBA straight from high school and becoming the highest drafted prep to pro player at the time. His rookie season with the Clippers showcased flashy athleticism, highlight dunks, and the promise of a long career. He made the all-rookie first team and quickly became a fan favorite, but injuries changed everything. A major knee surgery stalled his progression, and repeated setbacks kept him off the court for long stretches. His stints in Cleveland, Portland, Boston, and Memphis were short, each one one marked by attempts to recapture early momentum. Off the court, financial issues and mental health struggles created even more challenges. Yet he rebuilt himself through transparency and reinvention, eventually launching a successful podcast and reconnecting with the game in a more meaningful way. Tyreke Evans arrived in the NBA on fire, delivering one of the most impressive rookie seasons in league history. He averaged over 20 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 6 assists, joining a list that previously included only LeBron, Michael Jordan, and Oscar Robertson. Sacramento believed they had a future superstar, and his early production supported that idea. But injuries and inconsistency reset his trajectory. He bounced between Sacramento, New Orleans, Memphis, and Indiana, showing flashes of brilliance but rarely sustaining them for long stretches. In 2019, he was removed from the league for violating NBA policy and later reinstated, attempting a comeback that never fully materialized. Evans remains one of the biggest what-if players of his generation. His rookie brilliance proved he had the talent, but the path forward shifted dramatically. His story sits at the intersection of ability and unpredictability, a reminder that potential alone never guarantees longevity. OJ. Mayo was once considered the best middle school basketball player in the country, a prodigy scoring against older competition and building a myth before he ever suited up in college. By high school, he averaged nearly 30 points per game, collected major awards, and entered USC with national attention. Memphis drafted him in 2008 and watched him score efficiently as a rookie while finishing second in Rookie of the Year voting. His talent was real, but stability proved elusive. Fights with teammates, a suspension, injuries, and eventually a multi-year league removal derailed his NBA tenure. Mayo spent the following years playing internationally in China, Russia, Puerto Rico, Egypt, and other stops, eventually shifting into coaching. His story mirrors the high-risk nature of early hype. The comparisons to LeBron were based on raw ability, but the career arc shows how quickly momentum can shift. If you like this video, consider watching this next one, which YouTube thinks you are going to really love.